Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théâtres, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
All right, joining us now, author of the brand new book, Liars, Leakers, and Liberals, the case against the anti-Trump conspiracy, Judge Jeanine Pirro in the House. And also with us, he's the #1 host on the Fox Business Network. And our good friend Lou Dobbs is with us. Okay, if I actually said, then I said, I'm kidding. I said, bad idea. It's not going to work out well for you. And then I go through everything that Hillary did, but they're more mad at what I was. How did they not get it?
Well, they don't get it because they are so consumed with the Trump derangement syndrome that it doesn't matter who is right and who does wrong. The issue for them is if you say anything, they're going to hate you for it. Whereas one of them just said, I wrote it down, where did the idea come from?
From me.
No, the idea came from Hillary Clinton. Okay. It was a joke on what Hillary Clinton
exactly.
did.
Well, that's the point. She did these things.
She
Lou.
got a warning. Look, you better trash your
She
phone,
broke the
delete
law.
your emails, destroy the evidence in case we come for you, but we're not really coming for you.
For those folks to take you seriously is suggest only one thing.
Oh, wait a minute. That really sounds bad. For those folks, I want to be. All right, that moment was sarcastic as hell.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I heard you live, and it was a funny bit. It was terrific. But for those folks to try to pretend in front of their audiences who come to them for some semblance of a perspective on the world and take them seriously,
wow.
Let me explain what happens here. They're attaching. I don't know the names of a single person that you put in front of us in your audience.
I don't either, actually.
And I'll bet you that the MSNBC's audience doesn't know the names of those folks.
That's a great point.
And the reason they're mentioning the name Sean Hannity in any context at all, they're trying to affix themselves to some part of your, let me say, status.
How did I become clickbait? How did that happen?
That's what you are.
That's all it is.
Proudly.
I guess.
But the whole idea to say that women who support Trump are numb
dead
or
inside.
dead inside. How dare you trash the women in this country as dead inside because we don't agree with you?
Right.
We're not criticizing
Anybody watching you right now knows that that's a false statement.
I'm not dead
you're
inside?
very alive. Yes. All right. What a historic week, Lou, we're heading into.
You bet.
There's no risk to the president here. He's managed expectations. I'll walk out. Maybe it needs 5 meetings. He's not going to sign a deal, but maybe we can end the Korean War.
The president has communicated this week in his body language, his words, his actions, just how on top of his game he is. This is a president who has not only had the most historic list of achievements of any president since Franklin Delano Roosevelt in less than a year and a half, but he has also grown immensely as a leader. Now, this is a man who's a natural-born leader. He's led business. He has led the country.
He's figured it out.
Oh, this is a man who's found his voice. Yeah. He knows he's known who he is throughout, and now he knows the job. And that means if you're Ryan, you're McConnell, you're Schumer, you're Pelosi, run for cover because he's going to have his way.
It's especially sad that Republicans, this is their best opportunity. All they got to say is, this is a great agenda. Look at the economy. Look at foreign policy. Everything's getting better. They should be happy and want to want to be a part of it.
Paul Ryan
Yep.
can't stand the fact that he doesn't amount to shoelaces on the president's...
Scared me a little bit there. When you shoelaces got close.
Sometimes I get caught up in those sibilants because I'm so used to going other places rather than...
I've heard it, Lou. I've watched in person. Let me ask you, not only the North Korean summit, but now we got this IG report. I have a problem with the timing of the release. 18 months, we're going to release it 2 days after the summit. The leaks that I hear, insubordinate with James Comey, are they going to tell us the truth? Hillary broke the law. Hillary committed felonies. Hillary obstructed justice, and Comey, Strzok, and others put the fix in and wrote her exoneration months before they ever did their investigation.
Look, here's the truth. The Inspector General has no power. It's almost as though you want to say, thanks for the report, but where's the beef? You know, he doesn't have the power to indict. Should James Comey be indicted? The question, based on what I've heard, is yes.
Remember, McCabe got the criminal referral after the IG report. We'll get into this with Sarah and Greg next.
Comey will too.
I think so.
Comey,
I think you're right.
They have to.
I think Comey, Strzok, McCabe, all in deep trouble.
Will they turn against someone
They already
higher?
have. Look, why do you think they're building a proffer with McCabe now?
Higher.
Well, that was the latest Strzok page text said it's being directed by the White House. What did Obama know?
President Obama know?
That's
and when
my
did he know
point.
it?
When did he know it?
Agreed.
You want immunity? Hit the guy on top.
For somebody that's really dead inside, you're doing really well, you know?
It is Monday, the 11th of June of 2018, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam, and our daily special is River City Hash Mondays, folks, because it's always busy over the weekend. And we put it all together and make a curated whole for you with a W. Okay? We're not talking about digging it and filling it back up. All right. Well, so Trump is in Singapore today. I don't think he brought his own porta potty. It would be gold-plated. You know it would be. But so North Korea brings their own porta potty because it just sounds weird. So why not report on that? Because we are news of the weird. Yeah, and there is a bizarre reason, but I'm not going to get into it. Okay? But if I was a paranoid autocrat, I would probably think that your own porta potty is the same as a taste tester, yes. Make sure there's no poison. Guy's not frothing at the mouth, that must be okay. Yeah. I guess we're in a constitutional crisis still. What are we going to do about it? I hope voting works. I think they pretty much figured out how to put a tamp on that. Yes, indeed. Well, it was a busy weekend, and I should mention that I need to extend sincere and deep apologies for some reason. And I think it was operator error. And you know who the operator is? Yeah, me. The queue got all messed up over the weekend when I went up north for my grandson's graduation. And we always have the PV channel as backup. And there's an automation part, and I must have automated wrong. I certainly apologize. So, got back here around noon on Sunday and put everything back in order, but I wasn't able to do it from afar, and I don't know what to say except I apologize. But at least it wasn't long silences, so I figured something was better than nothing. I had a great time at my son's graduation. There were I was grossly exaggerating, overestimating the amount of kids in his graduating class initially. After conferring with him, there's actually only about 500 kids graduating. Yikes. Okay, only. It was fun, and it was at the state fairgrounds in one of their big auditoriums. And I didn't bring binoculars because we were seated quite far away. But it was still fun. And their little symphony, the high school symphony was quite accomplished. I was pleased with their efforts. And one cannot always say that. I have to admit. But yeah, they did quite well. And so of course, then I have a great conversation with my grandson, and I met his girlfriend officially this time. And he's going to be jetting off to Germany right after Father's Day, or after this upcoming weekend. I think this upcoming weekend would be considered Father's Day weekend, maybe. And he will be going off to Germany as a foreign exchange student. And the kid from Germany stayed at he and his mom's place and for this last term. And then he will be staying there in Germany, and I believe it's Stuttgart, where he will be spending most of the time. But it might be, yeah, I think it's Stuttgart. But he'll be doing that for about 3 to 4 weeks, and then another week on his own with his handlers, of course, because you better put a handle on that. And I hope that he learns well, and I hope people learn from him. And we'll know that there are actually a lot of Americans who, did not vote for this guy. So no matter what anyone says, oh, he won the Electoral College. Yeah, well, you know what? A lot of people hate him. Okay? And they didn't vote for him. So numbers and numbers and numbers, all right? Okay, so, what's up with Canada? Why are they stabbing us in the backwoods poutine stand? I don't understand. Ludlow, I think Ludlow, or Kudlow, Ludlow. What was this guy's name? Regardless, I think that this guy's still on cocaine. Or something worse. I don't know. It usually, I think there's gateway drugs and gateway drugs to other gateway drugs. And whatever cocaine was a gateway drug for, he's on that drug now. And he is addled. But they give him a platform because I guess it makes good TV. Kudlow, that's right. Yeah, Kudlow. Yeah, and this thing about attacking our allies. Mm-hmm. And he wants Putin to be part of the G8 again. Sorry, I think it's going to be down to it'll be the G7. We won't have any. Well, I don't know. Maybe it will be a satellite of Russia. As they always wanted it. I don't know. Okay, well, I suppose I could go on and on about Avenatti, and I could talk about, the F-bombs at the Tonys. Actually, I think Fuck Trump should be a Andrew Lloyd Webber musical. I really do. Gosh. Or Sondheim, but he's dead. Darn. Okay, so what is on store here at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Jeanine Pirro? Yeah, hey Jeanine. When Stephanie Ruhle said that, not Stephanie Ruhle. Here, let me find out. I will say, Nicole Wallace, Bush's former aide, or I don't know, speechwriter? No, not speechwriter, but former member of the Trump or Bush administration. Yeah, they're all interchangeable in a way. But regardless, said that basically Trump women are dead inside. And Jeanine Pirro proves it. So thank you, Jeanine. And while attacking the media, along with Lou Dobbs, who I don't know. Is that guy? I suppose if you put on the special They Live sunglasses, you'll see what he really looks like. He ain't of this earth. Nope. And, of course, Hannity. God, what a bro. And they're all attacking the media because Hannity said, destroy evidence. And then blaming Hillary. Oh, yeah, well, Hillary told me to do it. Yeah, right. Hannity. All right. What else is on store and on the rest of the menu in the Bistro Cafe part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy? The lawyer who brought the NRA and Russia officials together. He also helped lead Marsha Blackburn's re-election campaigns. It's a small town, isn't it? An ultra-right Texas think tank wields extraordinary power over Trump's environmental and energy policy. And the White House has to employ an entire department that is ordered to tape papers back together after Trump illegally rips them apart. Yeah, the Presidential Record Act, it's just a piece of paper. And after the break, we move to the chef's table, where for the second time in less than 2 years, officials at the U.S. Department of Education say no to a for-profit accreditor. But it might not matter after all. It's because, once they're entrenched. And after they were barred from the UK, far-right darlings Lauren Southern and Pizzagate truther Brittany Pettibone decided to head to Russia and meet with neo-fascist Alexander Dugin instead. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. Bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com, you'll notice the chat room link on the rightish of the page. Kelly Lincoln, our roaring girl, monitors that and takes care of that for you. And to the leftish of the chat room link at the bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com are the contribute and donate buttons. And thank you for your generosity. It may seem like a broken record, but it's not. It's just on an extended loop. Okay, and we sincerely do thank you for your generosity. We are unable to do this without you. And let me make mention also, Tom put that page together, and it looks beautiful and really quite modern and sleek. So thank you, Tom. You can follow Netroots Radio on Twitter at Netroots Radio, and Tom monitors that and makes some quite appropriate and pithy comments when needed. Let's see. Oh, you can go to Facebook too. We're there. And also you can follow me on Twitter at Justice Putnam. I also post show notes and links to each day's show on Daily Co's in my show notes and links diary, the Justice Department on Netroots Radio. And I'm on Daily Co's as Justice Putnam. Try to make it easy. Oh, and let me also make mention real quick. Adam Putnam, the NRA shill. He's the one that calls himself that, or NRA apologist, whatever. Who decided on his own. Well, we don't need to make any background checks on people with concealed weapons permits. That's an infringement on people's rights. I just want to make note that he is of no relation to the better part of the Putnam family. Okay, just so you know. All right, and I should make a program note real quick. We will be playing Irreverent Testimony tonight after the broadcast. So I believe that would be broadcast begins at 11 on the East Coast, 8 p.m. here on the West Coast. And 9 p.m. would be when we'll play Irreverent Testimony, and that would be midnight on the East Coast. Okay, so we'll fit that in a couple of more times during the week, and I don't think I missed much of anything else that I haven't replayed already. So we'll see. I'll look through the logs. Alrighty, all right. So let's get on with this first story here in the Bistro Cafe part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, River City Hash Mondays. And this is the lawyer. Oh, yeah. NRA, and even more evidence is now coming out about how much money was laundered through the NRA. Because, they have similar ideas about how to, run and rule vast amounts of people. So, and I got to say, the Soviet Union had a pretty good effort there. I mean, quite efficient. They had a whole gulag system in place, and they used it quite deftly, as a matter of fact. This article is by Casey Michelle out of Think Progress. When G. Klein Preston IV there's your first clue right there. Okay? Well, not all lawyers are like this. Where's the Esquire? Huh? G. Klein Preston IV, Esquire. You should have that. First introduced the NRA leadership to Russian officials in 2011. He'd been close to Representative Marsha Blackburn, Republican of Tennessee, for years. For many years. Both Preston and Blackburn have a long history in and around Brentwood, the Tony Nashville suburb. And as Preston, the lawyer whose relationship with both NRA leadership and sanctioned Russian officials facilitated the unexpected cooperation between the two, he and Blackburn have been family friends for a long time. Long, as long as the magnolia tree's been blooming all over the South. But, as documents obtained by Think Progress reveal, Blackburn was far closer to Preston than has previously been reported. Preston not only listed himself as the campaign finance chair for Blackburn, but additionally worked for years as the president of Marsha Blackburn for Congress, Inc. Well, according to information now removed from his website, Preston says he served as president for Marsha Blackburn for Congress, Inc. through at least 2014, with official documents showing the work beginning in 2003. Now, we also know that there's been some long-time efforts by Russia going back even before then. And isn't it funny how Democrats wouldn't take the bait, but the Republicans do? During the same time period, he also introduced Alexander Dugin, a now-sanctioned Russian official accused of mafia ties and massive money laundering in Europe, to then NRA President David Keene. For good measure, documents filed show that Marsha Blackburn for Congress, Inc. also listed Blackburn's husband as the registered agent and listed Blackburn's address as its own. The fact that a key member of Blackburn's campaign was also working closely with Russian officials now raises new questions about designs Russian operatives may have had on recruiting allies among Republicans and social conservatives in the U.S., as well as just how extensive this effort might have been. How many rubles are in their wallet? We want to know. The relationship between Preston and Blackburn, whose campaign and congressional office did not respond to repeated requests for comment, is well known in Nashville circles. So, yeah, I bet. The two are from the same town. They're thick as thieves, one Nashville-based lawyer who asked not to be named told Think Progress. Well, yeah, he lives in Nashville. They got the Nashville Mafia down there, don't you know? Well, they do. Despite Preston's listing his primary focus on his LinkedIn profile as experience in business in the Russian Federation, his professional relationship with Blackburn dates to at least 2002. That is when Preston says he began working as Blackburn's campaign finance chair shortly before Blackburn was elected to Congress a year later. Preston didn't hide his affections for Russian President Vladimir Putin. His Facebook and Twitter feeds are drenched in material from Russian propaganda outlets because Russia is white utopia. Preston is this random guy in Brentwood, and he's got all these Russian connections, that same unnamed Nashville-based lawyer said. It's bizarre. And the relationship between Preston and Blackburn cannot be discounted. Knowing what we know now, especially as tight as he is with Marsha, it just cannot be discounted. Penn penned this next offering here at the Bistro Cafe, part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. River City Hash Mondays, and he works for out of Think Progress, of course. A top official at a far-right Texas research and advocacy group known for promoting climate science denial failed in her bid to become the top environmental official at the White House, but her extreme views are gaining traction in Washington in other ways. Kathleen Hartnett White, a researcher at the Texas Public Policy Foundation, proved too controversial to win Senate confirmation to head the White House Council on Environmental Quality in February, but new emails show that, and they've been released, show that she put together a list of candidates to serve on the EPA Science Advisory Board. Now, the TPPF, that's the Texas Public Policy Foundation now, which has received funding from the Koch brothers and Exxon, then gave the list to the EPA, which took its suggestions. Doug Deason, the son of a billionaire technology entrepreneur and a board member of the TPPF, obtained the list from White and then submitted it to the agency with Michael Honeycutt, a toxicologist at the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, named as the top candidate for the board. Deason, a longtime critic of the EPA, liked Honeycutt because he was well known for questioning the agency's assessments of the dangers of mercury, arsenic, and ozone pollution. Yeah, here, I'll drink this mercury right here. It will have no effect upon me. Yeah. Well, you can sometimes wonder if they come to these conclusions that they have some heavy metals residing in the far reaches of their cranium. One would wonder. So Deason, who serves on the board of the TPPF, donated almost $1 million with his father to help elect Donald Trump and other Republican candidates. Deason is a major donor in the Koch political network and lobbied for Pruitt to become Trump's EPA administrator. Deason has remained loyal to Pruitt as the scandals engulfing the administrator grow too numerous to count. He's a conservative hero, Deason told Bloomberg, referring to Pruitt. It would be a huge mistake to do anything other than come out and support him. Yeah, because Russia is white utopia, and that's much better than having representative Democratic Republic because, you know, who wants to do it with those people? Another former TPPF official, Doug Demenich, serves as Assistant Secretary of Interior for Insular and Internal Affairs. And that guy's attracted criticism for holding meetings with his former employer, even though the Koch-funded organization was involved in legal actions against the department at the time. Well, of course, when you're deconstructing the administrative state, usually take advisement from those that trained you well. Burris from Raw Story penned this last offering here at the Bistro Cafe, part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. The American government is ruled by a series of regulations designed to create transparency to the public, but those rules are no match for Donald Trump. Politico reported yesterday that the White House has been tasked with taping papers back together after Trump ripped them apart. Document preservation laws mandate that the White House keep schedules, memos, speeches, public digital communications, and more. Since the transition, the National Archives staff have frequently reminded the White House to follow the Presidential Records Act, but Trump staff has been haphazard in document preservation. Well, that's one way of putting it. That's where Solomon Lardy comes in. The record's management analyst has spent hours tediously attempting to paste together pages ripped apart by the commander-in-chief, spending his days piecing together the world's most important government transparency jigsaw puzzle. Scores the staffer just a little over $65,000 annually. Sometimes his job is easy. Papers torn in half or quarters make for a simple day in the office. Others, however, would be torn into pieces so small they look like confetti. While the Republican leader campaigned on the importance of transparency, his administration and cabinet appointees have taken a different approach. For President himself, old habits die hard. His process is an unofficial filing system in which he rips papers to pieces when he's finished with them. Sometimes they make it into the trash. Others are strewn about the Oval Office. God, this guy's Rather than trying to teach an old dog new tricks, the staff decided simply to clean up after him. We got Scotch tape, the clear kind, Lardy told Politico in an interview. You found pieces and taped them back together, and then you gave it back to the supervisor. Papers would then be sent to the National Archives where they would be filed. I had a letter from Schumer, and he tore it up. He said it was the craziest thing ever. He ripped papers into tiny pieces. He noted that the entire department was needed to accomplish the task of taping the documents when Trump first came into office. After 2 decades in government service, Reginald Young Jr., a former senior records management analyst, explained he's never experienced the demand in his career. We had to endure this under the Trump administration. I'm looking at my director and saying, are you guys serious? We're making more than $60,000 a year. We need to be doing far more important things than this. It felt like the lowest form of work you could take on without having to empty trash cans. Hundreds of years from now, the Trump presidency's documents will stand with other presidents. His will be wrinkled, torn, ripped, or pieced back together and held with tape. Trump pledged to cut government spending and red tape. There was no word on Scotch tape, however. All right, let's get to our break, and we'll come back and go through weather from around the world and finish with the stories that we've curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Scientific American's 60-Second Science. I'm Christopher Intagliata. It's an idea straight out of Star Wars. Suck the humidity from dry desert air and turn it into drinking water.
What I really need is a droid who understands the binary language of moisture evaporators.
Evaporators? Sir, my first job was programming binary load lifters, very similar to your evaporators in most respects.
Very similar to the evaporators in Star Wars moisture farms, scientists have now used a box of gunmetal gray powder to pry moisture from the dry Arizona air by night and deliver drinking water the next day. The powder consists of tiny structures called metal organic frameworks, which contain even tinier pores to grab water.
Initially, water goes in, and the first water molecules to go in adhere to the internal surface and make the pores more polar, so more water comes in.
Omar Yaghi, a chemist at UC Berkeley. The powder-filled box is built inside yet another box. At night, the larger box is left open to let in the cool, slightly humid air. But when it's closed in the morning, it helps trap heat and evaporated water inside. The water then condenses inside the larger box and trickles down to be collected. No cooler or power source needed. The finding by Yaghi and colleagues is in the journal Science Advances. It would take many truckloads of powder to sustain a community. Every pound of the zirconium-based metal organic framework used here only squeezes 3 ounces of water from the air per day. But Yaghi's testing a much cheaper, more efficient aluminum-based powder, which might just bring us a little closer to Tatooine, technologically. Thanks for listening. For Scientific American's 60-Second Science, I'm Christopher Intagliata.
Welcome to 60 Second Civics, the daily podcast of the Center for Civic Education. I'm Mark Gage. At the outset of the Civil War, public opinion in the North was generally unfavorable to immediate abolition. Some favored the status quo. Others favored gradual emancipation. Those demanding complete and immediate abolishment of slavery, called abolitionists, were a minority. Others, content with outlawing slavery in the territories and newly admitted states, would leave it in place in the South. These were known as Free Soilers after a political party that advocated this solution to the slavery issue. As the Civil War proceeded, policy toward slavery became part of the North's war strategy. Not long after the outbreak of war, Congress passed the Confiscation Act of 1861 that forbade the Union military from returning slaves to slaveholders. In July 1862, it passed a second such act, emancipating all slaves owned by rebel slaveholders that came under Union jurisdiction. By then, Lincoln was secretly devising a two-part executive order, the Emancipation Proclamation, that would attack the Confederacy by liberating its slaves, although none in Union territory. That's all for today's podcast, 60 Second Civics, where civic education only takes a minute.
If you inject a stream of raw ignorance into a vat of gaseous arrogance, then jolt the mixture with 1,000 megawatts of malevolence, what does it produce? Answer: Donald Trump's executive order of April 12th. King Donald I has been in a deep pout over negative articles about him in the Washington Post newspaper, which is owned by Jeff Bezos, king of the Amazon.com empire. King Trump fired off several rounds of angry tweets assailing King Bezos, including a potshot claiming that Amazon is, quote, ripping off the post office by underpaying for the millions of its packages the Postal Service ships. Tweets aside, Trump has the firepower of the federal government at his fingertips, so he's now arrogantly using the government to escalate his personal spat with Bezos. By executive order, he set up a federal task force to conduct a pernicious political inquisition into, quote, our money-losing post office, particularly looking at the, quote, pricing of the package delivery market. This reflects Trump's vast ignorance. Far from being a money loser, the U.S. Postal Service has actually been earning about $1 billion a year in profit. His false claim of unsustainable postal losses stems from a 2006 political ploy by right-wingers who want to destroy the public service. They passed a law dictating that USPS pre-fund retiree health benefits 75 years into the future, covering benefit costs for workers who haven't even been born, much less hired and retired. This adds a totally hokey expense of up to $5 billion a year to the USPS corporate ledger, creating the fake loss Trump is now so bombastically citing as the rationale for his destructive inquisition. This is Jim Hightower saying, sometimes public policy inadvertently turns bad, but when it's based on ignorance and arrogance, policy inevitably goes bad.
Need an antidote to the progressive blues? Want some good news about how grassroots folks are rebelling against the corporate powers and winning? Well, here's an easy-to-swallow pill for you, the Hightower Lowdown. Hightower's monthly newsletter will give you the lowdown, even as it lifts you up. It's 4 pages a month, jam-packed with facts you can use, actions you can take, and Jim's own Texas humor, all for only $15 a year. To become a lowdowner, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
This is Solidarity News on Radio Labour.
This is a Radio Labour report recorded on Monday, June 11th, 2018. I'm Mark Boulanger. The Trump administration in the United States has imposed tariffs of 25% on steel and 10% on aluminum products entering the U.S. from the European Union, Mexico, and Canada. Canada has responded by saying that on July 1st it will impose equivalent tariffs on steel and aluminum from the U.S., plus tariffs on a wide range of other products, including boats, yogurt, and maple syrup. Canada's tariffs equal the $12.8 billion US dollars worth of tariffs that the United States is imposing. I talked to Ken Newman about the tariffs. Mr. Newman is the National Director for Canada for the United Steelworkers Union. The USW is the largest private sector union in North America with 800,000 members, including more than 225,000 members in Canada. The Trump administration has argued that the tariffs it has imposed are necessary because the U.S. has been taken advantage of by Canada and it has to react. I asked Mr. Newman what he thinks of this argument.
Well, I think there's absolutely no justification for these tariffs, and the facts just bear that out. I mean, Canada is not seen as a bad trading partner, and for the U.S. Say that they are is just absurd. The U.S. has a trade surplus in steel shipments to Canada, and there's 35 or 36 U.S. states that also have a trade surplus. There's been the integrated market for decades that has worked relatively well, and the 25% not only just penalizes workers in Canada, it'll also penalize workers in the U.S. Because of the integration of the market, there's $1 billion worth of trade that crosses our borders every single day. And for example, in steel or aluminum, some of the materials that are put into vehicles may cross the Canadian-U.S. border 3-4 times before it's turned into a final product. So them to suggest for a second that Canada's been unfair is just not anywhere near the truth, and it's not a national security issue. They've had some testimony from some high-ranking people in the United States that have even said that Canada is not the problem. The problem, quite frankly, is that the glut in the industry or the dumping of foreign steel is what you need to get your arm around. You have China and other countries such as India, Korea, and Turkey and Vietnam and that continue to dump and are not playing by the rules. So I can understand where President Trump's trying to come from, is that you've got the dumping of cheap foreign steel is having an effect, and the same thing is having the effect on Canada as well. So we need our governments on both sides to make sure that we protect our industries and the integration in North America, but don't beat up on each other, because the tariffs or trade war would not make any sense. And our view is that all this is going to do is to harm our members in both countries. And so to me, it's short-sighted. But look, my bottom line on this is it's got nothing to do with the steel or aluminum of us being a threat. I view it as that this is President Trump's way of retaliation because he didn't get the NAFTA agreement that he wanted. If you remember very early in his mandate, when he talked about reopening NAFTA and the conversations he had with Trudeau, he basically admitted that, look, Canada's not the problem. All we need is a couple of tweaks, I think was the phrase that he used. And if you look at what they're asking for in that particular agreement, it's fairly significant changes to NAFTA, which Canada clearly can't agree to. So therefore, he's now come with these punishing duties because he didn't get what he wanted. And he's also not that far away from his midterm elections. And if you recall, during his presidential election, he talked about NAFTA being the worst agreement, going to tear it up, going to make America great again, bring back all these jobs. So his focus is that he has to prop up this rhetoric to basically get to his base because usually in midterms it doesn't sit that well for the incumbent. So that's where I see it at, sir, is it's ill-advised to have those tariffs, and it's got more to do with the midterm elections that are coming down, I think, in November.
And that's it. International labor news you can use. Thank you for listening. And remember, it's all about global solidarity.
From UN headquarters in New York, I'm Luke Vargas with your World in 2 minutes. The goal of the X Prize is to use sponsorship money and a prize system to address market failures and spur innovation in key areas, from oil cleanup to creating water from thin air. Not all X Prizes are claimed, but on Wednesday, one of them was, the Anu and Naveen Jain Women's Safety X Prize. The $1 million challenge was to build a device that triggered an inconspicuous emergency alert if a woman is threatened or attacked, and it has to work if a woman's cell phone is snatched.
People want a solution that should be independent of the smartphone and should have audio and other stuff recording features.
That's Avinash Bansal, the operations director for Leaf Wearables, the Indian team that won the X Prize. Their device, called the Safer Pro, is a small chip that can be installed into a smartwatch or onto less noticeable pieces of jewelry. When an alert is triggered, a message and location details are sent to pre-selected guardians over Bluetooth or through a mesh network of other devices. And to boot, explains Neymarika Rajiv, an advisor to the winning team, their product is affordable at less than $40.
This product works as well as in developing countries as it would in a country like America. It is something that at a price point which is, absolutely workable for everyone.
A new Gallup poll released on Thursday asked people in 142 countries how safe they felt walking alone at night, and the results show the importance of women's safety devices. While more than 90% of those in Singapore or Norway felt safe walking alone, those numbers plummeted in Argentina and Mexico at 40%, or in Brazil and South Africa at 31%, and that includes answers from men. Leaf Wearables co-founder Manik Mehta.
If my device is with one person, and that person gets saved, it helps me sleep better.
Luke Vargas, the United Nations.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, River City Hash Mondays, and let's begin with weather from around the world, and we always begin along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 60 degrees Fahrenheit here at Positively 3rd and Marie. And we are slated to be much warmer than yesterday. Actually, over the weekend, we had quite a bit of rain, much cooler temperatures, and much cooler overnight temperatures as well. But we're going to be much warmer than we were over the weekend. We will be going up, slated to go to up to 81. Though here at Positively 3rd and Marie, I think we'll be a tad higher. Low will be in the mid-50s, probably upper 50s where I'm at. Winds are currently a negligible 1 mile per hour out of the southeast. They will remain light and variable through the day, though later on this evening they will shift out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. We're expected to go to about 90 tomorrow. Okay. Dry conditions will continue. Grass pollen remains very high. The daytime UV index is also very high at 9. Take care if you have those numbers. High pressure dominates at 30.05 inches. Visibility is right now at 8 miles, and relative humidity is just a tad below 80%. Okay, weather from around the world is brought to you by People's Personal Weather Stations that they purchase. These people planted these purchased personal weather stations somewhere on their property, and these people positively live around the world. London is 75 and sunny. Paris is 69 and cloudy, and they have, thunderstorm, electrical, and rain advisory that could knock out critical infrastructure. Darn. Rome is 82 and sunny. Kiev is 82 and fair. Kabul is 76 and fair, but with heavy winds. Hong Kong is 80 and partly cloudy. Tokyo is 67 and partly cloudy. Sydney, Australia is 51 and fair. San Francisco is 56 and sunny, and they continue to have a small craft advisory for gale force winds on the bay and offshore. Be careful. And New York is 66 degrees Fahrenheit and sunny. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by People's Personal Weather Stations that they purchased. These people planted these purchased personal weather stations somewhere on their property, and these people positively live around the world. Okay, first offering here at the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy is by Eric Kelderman out of the Chronicle of Higher Education. For the second time in less than 2 years, officials at the Department of Education have recommended against approving a controversial accrediting agency that primarily oversees for-profit colleges, but their finding may have little effect on the accreditor's future. On Friday evening, the department released a 244-page document advising that the Accrediting Council for Independent Colleges and Schools, known as ACCES, fails to meet nearly 60 federal regulations on accreditation. The analysis is a draft of a report that was meant to be released in May at a hearing scheduled to consider the accreditor's status. That hearing was canceled following a judge's order in a lawsuit filed by the council. The draft identified numerous minor shortcomings on the part of the accrediting agency. For example, the document said ACES, it's not ACCES, it's ACES, must update its directory of accredited institutions and show that it has enough staff to carry out its responsibilities. But the report also found major problems. It said that the agency failed to show that its standards and practices are widely accepted by educators, licensing agencies, and employers. Well, what do they know? The staff report makes clear that the council is wholly unfit and an unreliable evaluator of higher education institutions. In a written statement, the council responded that the draft report contains numerous inaccuracies. The council's president, Michelle Edwards, said in an email that the organization is preparing to release a more detailed response to the report. Now they do. A letter from department officials, not written by the staff who prepared the report, also downplayed the significance of the findings, calling the report an incomplete, pre-decisional document that may include errors of fact or omissions on the part of staff analysts who, in this case, did not benefit from receiving a response or additional information from the agency. Okay. In that letter, the department also said the draft analysis will not be considered by the department in any future evaluations or assessments, including the review of the 2016 decision, because the criteria for initial recognitions and those that were the subject of the 2016 decision are not the same. Interesting. Another thing under the Obama aegis? But the release of the document is the latest turn in a long-running bureaucratic struggle that shows just how hard it is to pull the plug on an accrediting agency. In 2016, the National Advisory Committee for Institutional Quality and Integrity voted to recommend that the council lose its federal recognition. The vote was consistent with a department analysis that found the accreditor out of compliance with more than 20 areas of federal regulation. The education secretary at the time, John B. King, officially revoked the council's recognition in December of 2016. The council filed a lawsuit arguing that the department had not followed proper procedures in reaching its conclusions. At the same time, it reapplied to the department for recognition. A federal district judge ruled in favor of the accreditor in March, finding the department had not properly considered some 36,000 pages of material that the accreditor had submitted nearly 2 years ago. Then, the current education secretary, Betsy DeVos, said the council's recognition status would be restored while officials reviewed those documents. So, DeVos canceled that May hearing to consider the council's application for recognition, and the analysis released Friday is a draft document prepared for that hearing. And the staff report had been sent to the accreditor but not released publicly until Friday. The council objected to the document being released because it was a draft. The council has sought in court to prevent the report from being released, arguing that it was part of a confidential process that allowed for a frank exchange of information between accreditors and the department. Well, wait a second. Well, we wanted to be frank, lie when we had to and lie when we must. Well, Alex Elson, a lawyer from the National Student Legal Defense Network, said it would be odd for the department to consider the council's objections to the staff report, but not the staff's own findings. DeVos's critics have cited her decision to restore ACES's recognition as one of the many data points demonstrating that she is steering the education department away from efforts to hold for-profit institutions accountable. This will shed light whether or not she's completely ignoring the facts on the ground, Elson said, or even willing to heed their advice.
Je te donne ce mon amour pour la vie entière. La promesse de me trouver à tes genoux. Aussitôt que tu m'appelles, rester toujours fidèle. C'est tout, c'est tout. Je te donne tous mes printemps, mes étés de mer. Mes automnes, quand les feuilles tombent partout. Si ce n'est pas une bonne affaire, je te donne tous mes hivers.
All right, finishing up here at the Chef's Table, a West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy is another article by Casey Michelle out of Think Progress. After they were barred from entering the UK, Lauren Southern and Brittany Pettibone decided to head to a different country altogether, Russia. Now, of course, they are both far-right darlings. Yes, they are. And Pettibone is also a Pizzagate truther. In fact, she describes herself as one of the leading authorities on Pizzagate. Well, they announced the trip late last week and have already released their first video from the visit. Instead of speaking with local politicians or opposition activists, however, they settled on sharing the thoughts of one of Russia's most well-renowned neo-fascists, Alexander Dugin. Dugin has gained quite a bit of fair coverage, quite a bit of coverage over the past few years. Much of that attention stems from his advocacy of the geopolitical theory of Euro-Asianism, positing Russia, which he describes as eternal Rome, white utopia, not only as a country entitled to control all nations that made up the Soviet Union, sort of like their manifest destiny, but as one eternally at war with the West, which he refers to as eternal Carthage. Wow, I like it. Sounds like a I don't know, Lord of the Rings type of plot line. I like it. Southern, though, claims that Dugin isn't actually a fascist, but merely a misunderstood philosopher. It's incorrect to call him a fascist, she pleaded on Twitter. Dugin's denials, of course, are akin to white nationalists or members of the so-called alt-right, insisting they're not actually white supremacists. Indeed, Dugin's neo-fascism is all but impossible to miss. Oh, yes, I love this guy. Okay, so Dugin, whom former KKK higher-up David Duke referred to as one of the leading intellectuals of Russia's patriotic movement, white utopia, has built up a number of ties with American fascists. Not only has his site previously published ramblings from supremacists like Richard Spencer, but in 2015, Dugin filmed an address for the launch of white supremacist Matthew Heimbach's Traditionalist Worker Party, issuing a common message to his American friends. How nice. And it looks like he also worked with American neo-Nazi Preston Wingington to deliver a taped speech at Texas A&M. Wow. Well, predictably, Southern and Pettibone failed in their first video to ask Dugin about any of his fascistic beliefs. Well, I wouldn't say that they failed, because that wasn't their intention at all. I suppose what they are attempting to convey here is the image of, like Fox News personalities sitting down with, misunderstood philosophers. All right. Dugin is a man of rare intellectual caliber and one of the greatest minds of our time, which both Pettibone and Southern stated. And if Southern's reactions to interviewing Dugin are any barometer, it appears she may think the same way. Okay, links all provided on the show notes, so check those out. We are at the end of our broadcast period for the day, but Netroots Radio will broadcast on, and we'll visit with you tomorrow for Terrytown Chowder Tuesdays. And breaking news as it breaks will continue all day, because you know it is breaking news every minute of the day. So stay tuned to Netroots Radio, and we will visit with you tomorrow in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théâtres, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair, t'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.